See, there are two, three things. One is like, as I told you, we don't have much time and lot of lessons to cover in 1 hour. Okay, at least few of the days will be needing to cover two to three lessons in a day also. Okay, so your first lesson of psychological disorders. So can anybody tell me what is a psychological disorder? Any idea what is a psychological disorder?
Uh, Maybe behaving in a different manner, which is not as many are behaving, can be called as a psychological, disorder.
Abnormal behavior
Yes.
from the common people.
Okay. Is my voice clear? Because I'm thinking I'll just attach my earphone. That will be much better.
You can increase. I mean, the volume is less.
Yeah, I'll attach it in earphone.
Okay.
That will be better, I think. Yeah, hello? Hello?
Yeah, you can continue, I think.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So this will be much better. Yeah. So some of you said behaving differently, and one person said something, and because of the ear, the volume I couldn't hear. Can you just say it again?
Abnormal
No, who?
behaviors apart from the common people.
Mhm. Okay. So,
Not
yeah, yes.
Psychological disorder can also be a disturbance in the mental health of an individual.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So all of you are correct in a way. Okay. So this lesson, like psychological disorders, so this lesson actually comes under the branch or of psychology called abnormal psychology. Okay. So what is a psychological disorder? If you want to go with the definition, it's an abnormal behavior pattern that involves a disturbance of psychological functioning or behavior. Okay, so almost similar, that's what you people have contributed. And what is abnormal psychology? It is a branch of psychology that deals with the description, causes, and treatment of abnormal behavior patterns. So, abnormal psychology, it's a branch of psychology that deals with the description, causes, and treatment of these psychological disorders, or you want to call as abnormal behavior. Okay. So now we have something called we can also say abnormal psychology study of behavior, thoughts, and mood that are outside the bounds of what is considered normal in a particular culture. Okay, so something this is a branch or a field of psychology which studies behavior, thoughts, and moods which are considered outside the bounds of what is considered normal in a particular culture. So, what is normal and what is abnormal now? So, what is normal? Is there any such thing called normal? I'm curious to know. Do you think is there something called normal? Are we all normal? What is
accepted
normal
by
actually?
most of the people.
Huh?
Accepted by majority of people.
Hmm. Correct.
It is normal in psychological scale, reference to a particular uh, race or society.
Yes. So
As like
basically,
IQ scores. Based on the IQ scores, uh, we can justify whether the person is acceptable or normal or disorder. disordered person.
So what you are saying is statistical
Yes.
deviation. If the
Yes, ma'am.
person is, you call something as normal, if the person is falling within that normal curve. If it's on that extreme ends, then that is a deviation. That is an abnormal. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
according to, and some of you have said, like, what the society describes it, the culture, basically. So you have to be very clear when, and continuously during the lessons forward also, I'll be telling you continuously, every time I will be making it very clear to you that culture is very, very important. Okay, just because you think something is abnormal doesn't, or something is psychologically, person is psychologically disturbed doesn't mean that he is disturbed. You have to see the person in his cultural context. Okay, so something which can be considered normal in India can be seen as abnormal from for a person coming from other part of the world. Understand? And we as like people belonging to this side of the world, uh, for them certain behaviors in the Western countries can be seen as abnormal. Okay, so what is normal in that particular culture, that is very, very important. You cannot just see, we have so many religious functions, we have so many cultural aspects going on in our Indian culture. Okay, and that is considered to be normal. Okay, just because an American comes and says like this is abnormal, that doesn't make it into an abnormal behavior. Okay, so culture is very important. So normality and abnormality are defined from three vantage points, basically: that of the society, the culture which the person belongs to, and that of the individual, whether it is creating problems in the person. Okay, from the individual context also, is it creating distress in the person? Is it creating distress in terms of, like, he is in psychological pain, or he is suffering from anxiety, depression, he is unable to function properly, uh, unable to get along, function in terms of his occupation, academics, social relationships. Okay, so if that person is basically loss of an efficiency, loss, not unable to fulfill duties, responsibilities. Okay, so that of an individual. One point is society, second is the individual, and third is whether that the person has been diagnosed by a mental health, from point of view of a mental health profession. Okay, so the concept of harmful dysfunction is very, very important. Again, see, uh, it should it if a behavior is dangerous to self and others, again that comes under, you can say like that it's considered to be an abnormal behavior. Okay, so culture, all of that, everything has an individual, and even the point of view of a mental health profession has to be taken into context. Okay, so now they have, in your book they have said the characteristics of normal behavior. So basically what they have described, characteristics of a normal behavior. See, there is no such thing as, like, I feel it, we all live in a continuum. Continuum basically is that, in a particular day, we see continuum, like if you see, draw one line. Okay, so in a day, depending upon what is going on in our life, we travel on that line from this end to that end continuously. See, if I have had a fight with somebody, okay, so my behavior might be seen as, I might get angry, I might get disturbed, might be seen as an abnormal. Okay, and if everything is going fine, I'm moving towards, a normal behavior. Okay, so here the characteristics of normal behavior, which they have described in your book, actually, if you really want to, they are describing from the point of view of mental health. Okay, a person having positive mental health, good mental health, would be having characteristics. He will show characteristics of positive outlook of life, on life, realistic expectations of self and approaches to life. It's like, unrealistic expectations, unrealistic goals. What is realistic in terms of what his goal abilities are, what he is capable of, and then achieving those. Effective management, able to manage his understand emotions, manage emotions, able to function well with others. Okay, and able to be independent in terms of taking care of himself, not being overly dependent upon others, is able to like reasonable appetites means like not impulsive, excessive, um, uh, reasonable appetites. It can mean anything like binge eating or excessive spending. Okay, having a spiritual nature. So all these are some of the characteristics of uh, what do you call as mental health, positive mental health or normal behavior. Okay, and then how do we define abnormal behavior? So abnormal behavior, there are criteria. We call them as 4Ds. Uh, we use these four criteria to describe abnormal behavior. Or so what are these 4Ds? I think it just right now, just 2 minutes back, also we were talking about this only. So these 4Ds are deviance, distress, dysfunction, and danger. Okay, so deviance is if a behavior is a person is showing a behavior which is deviating from accepted norms in a culture or a society is considered to be abnormal. Okay, so
Ma'am,
if
sorry to
the
interrupt. Ma'am, can you
yes,
please repeat those 4Ds?
deviance,
Okay.
distress, dysfunction, and danger.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so deviance would be, the person is, the behavior is considered, it's deviating from the accepted norms of a particular society or a culture. Okay, that is called as deviance. And also like, deviance can also be, a social deviance, where a person is like, not adjusted, indulging in criminal activities, impulsive activities, behavior is deviant in, it could be a social deviance basically. Okay, distress. I just mentioned a few minutes back, like, behavior is causing distress to the person. He is in psychological pain. Okay, so he is under distress. He is experiencing discomfort and distress. For example, see a person suffering from anxiety. Okay, and suffering from anxiety disorders. So when he or a person having panic attacks, so when the person is experiencing those symptoms or has an episode, he will be in proper, he will be experiencing distress. Okay, so behavior which causes distress to the person. Okay, that behavior. And next is dysfunction. So another dysfunction means the person is unable to perform and his like duties or responsibilities, and inability or loss of efficiency in fulfilling duties and responsibilities as required by that person's role. So for example, a person, he student. Okay, his role, his job at that point of life is to study, learn. And because of this psychological disturbance or an abnormal behavior, he is unable to perform academically. So that is creating dysfunction. A person is in a job, and because of depression or anxiety or OCD or any n number of like mental health conditions, because of those conditions, he is unable to perform work well in that area, like in his job. Okay, so if a behavior is causing dysfunction, person is unable to fulfill duties and responsibilities. Okay, and then next is danger. So person is danger to self and others. So because of this abnormal behavior, he poses a risk to self or others. See, severe depression can lead to suicidal tendencies. Okay, and there are certain self harm. For example, in borderline personality disorder. Okay, so one of the what you can say, like symptoms or signs of borderline personality disorder is self-harm, like they will cut themselves, self-cutting. Okay, so they're harming themselves. So so danger to or risk to self and others. So because if a person is like has paranoid ideations, or the person might be like under some sort of a delusion, so because of which he might start to suspect others, and which can trigger these homicidal tendencies or thoughts to harm others. Okay, so if an abnormal behavior, or whenever like a behavior poses risk to self or others, then that behavior is also considered to be abnormal. So the four criteria under which we measure abnormalities, or basically 4 Ds of abnormalities: deviance, distress, dysfunction, and danger. Okay. And there are again, we also have apart from these 4 Ds, there are some more criteria. For example, unusualness. Unusualness means, a person is exhibiting very unusual behavior, very bizarre behavior, very bizarre way of talking, bizarre way of dressing, talking to self. So, that unusualness, which, can also be one of the criteria of abnormal behavior. Faulty perceptions or interpretations of reality. Person is not in touch with reality. Okay, he is seeing things which are not there, hearing things which are not there, unable to interpret reality, uh, you know, uh, correct fashion. Okay, so maladaptive or self-defeating behavior can also be, in a way you can call that can be put under uh, dysfunction. So self-defeating behavior. So person is like unable to adjust to his job, unable to adjust in his relationships, indulges in self-defeating behavior or maladaptive behavior such as alcohol, drugs. So all these criteria, can be used to define abnormal behavior. Okay. So, but then again, if all this, whenever you should not be very enthusiastic just because you see some sign, some symptom, or one of these criteria. Don't be enthusiastic in labeling a person. Okay. So knowing a person's diagnosis and understanding that diagnosis is important, but it is not sufficient to understand that person. Okay, it is important to take a person's culture into consideration when you are thinking about their symptoms. Okay, just because I know what diagnosis is, what this diagnosis will entail, you have to understand that person. Okay, so this is what we call as that's abnormality and normality. Again, they're again talking about abnormality versus normality. I'm just looking at your book right now. So basically, what is the difference? The difference is same like what we just spoke about. Abnormality is a deviation from commonly accepted patterns of behavior, thought, or emotion. While normality is absence of illness and presence of good mental health is what we consider as normality. Okay. uh, Abnormality is basically opposite to what normality is. And again, these now, what is normal, what is abnormal, these the definitions or understanding of what is normal, abnormal are, yes, are influenced by the context and subjective interpretation. So again, a person coming from a Western country, his own subjective interpretation, what his personal experiences, what my own, like for example, me, if I go to village, or if a person has never been to village, so my own my experiences of living in a city might influence my interpretations of what is normal and what is abnormal. Okay, so abnormality and what is, you cannot be there are no clear cut definitions as just. Okay, so they can be influenced by context and subjective interpretations. So normality is generally defined as behavior that conforms to expectations and norms of a particular culture and society. So if it is if a particular behavior is considered to be normal in that culture, then that behavior is normal, irrespective of whether somebody coming from other culture sees that as abnormal. Doesn't matter. That behavior is normal. Okay. So culture is again, I'm telling you, very, very important. So term normality refers to an individual's behavior, way of behaving, emotions, thoughts, his ideas, etc., which are not found different from other people, and or in simple words, which are normal. Okay, so that is what it is. Like whatever we have discussed, they in this para, in this section of abnormality versus normality, they have again repeated the same thing here. So now coming to the historical perspective of abnormality. So are you holding your books with you? You have your books with you?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay. So because see, I was sent a soft copy of your book, and I'm looking at your book right now, and history of basically historical perspective of abnormality is nothing but history of abnormal psychology, and they have gone about it in a very hodgepodge way, like So what I will do is, I'll take you like right from the see. My way of teaching is, when you speak about history, you go right from the beginning and then come to the present. Okay, so that's how I'm going to teach you. Okay, so while reading the book, it is covered, but then what they have done is they've started with 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and then again went back to the ancient times. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with ancient times, then Greek, Roman period, then we will go to 18th century, 19th century, then 20th century, like that. Clear? Okay, so now we will be talking about history of abnormal psychology. So earliest time, like the ancient times, they according to the ancient, what they used to believe, they are you all able to hear me? Am I clear or audible to you?
Yes, ma'am, you are very much audible.
Okay, fine. So it's like when I'm going to, and this is a very important question also. Usually they, they usually ask this as an essay question, like history of abnormal psychology. So I'm going to teach you in terms like listen to it as if I'm talking about a story. I think that will help you. It will stick in your mind. Okay, so going back like the earliest ancient times, they used to see abnormal behavior as they attributed basically abnormal behavior to possession. Possession is like there can be good possession or a bad or bad possession also. Good possession would be like gods or some good spirit has entered into a person's body, that is why he or she is displaying this behavior. A bad position would be some ghost or some spirit has entered into a person's body. Okay, so they used to attribute, they used to, think that abnormal behavior is because of possession, and here the a lot of religious significance was given to being possessed. Okay, so because they felt that some evil spirit or the person has been possessed by a spirit or a ghost, so the treatment they would use is exorcisms, that where a religious person would come and perform exorcisms and will cast out the demons or ghost out of the body. And one more type of treatment they used to do is trephination. Trephination is what they used to do was when because a ghost or evil spirit has entered and because of which he is or she is behaving abnormally, what they would do is they will drill a hole. They used to drill a hole on a person's head. Okay, and they used to believe that by drilling a hole on a person's head, uh, skull basically, uh, it will release evil spirits out of the person's body. Okay, so they while excavations and digging, they have found skulls, like ancient skulls with holes on this on top of their skulls. Okay, so this trephination and exorcisms was the method of treatment used to treat these treat persons with abnormal, because they used to believe that person is behaving abnormally because he has been possessed by some spirit. Okay, then after these ancient times came the Greek, basically Greek and Roman period. So Hippocrates was a person, and basically he is considered to be father of medicine also. So he believed that mental disorders are not because of being possessed by the evil spirits; they are due to natural causes. He was the first person to come up with this theory that mental disorders are not because of evil spirits; they are because of natural causes. And he felt that mental disorders are because of brain pathology. That is something going wrong in the brain structurally, or in the chemistry of the brain. Okay. And he also pointed out that head injuries can also lead to certain sensory and motor disorders. Okay. And he also emphasized the importance of, like, hereditary and predisposition. Heredity is like, importance of hereditary, that we inherit not only physical illnesses, we inherit mental illnesses also. Okay. So, and he had come up with his theory of four humors. He said uh, the human body possesses four type of liquids or humors, and if there is an imbalance in these four humors, then the person would suffer from illnesses. So, and those four humors, he called them as blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. So blood, he said, like, if there is balance in this in the body, the person would be very optimistic, cheerful, even tempered. But then if there is an imbalance in this humor, then the person will become very impulsive, very overactive, manic in nature. Phlegm, if there is balance, the person would be relaxed, consistent, observant. And if there is an imbalance, then he'll become very dull, sluggish, apathetic. Yellow bile, if there is if a person has a balance of this, he will be a leader person. He will be showing qualities of leadership. But if there is an imbalance, then the person can become very controlling, easily angered, very bad tempered. Black bile, again, if there is a balance in this, the person would be kind, considerate, very highly creative. But if there is an imbalance in black bile in a person's body, the person can also become obsessed with tragedy and cruelty, like basically show signs of depression. Okay. So,
What? Sorry, ma'am.
what I during this Greek and Roman period, they, as I told you, the mindset changed. They felt that a person abnormal behavior is not because of possession by spirits; it is because of natural causes, something going wrong with the person's body chemistry and brain. And so the treatment which they advocated was humane treatment, do no harm. Like they used to believe the walking is best medicine. And they also recognize the importance of environment. If the person is put in a very healthy, conducive environment, then you can see changes in a person's behavior. Then came your what do you call us? See, during this, so Greek Roman period, in other parts of the world also, we had, like, India. Heard about Charakan Shushruta? They were
Yes,
earliest physicians and
yes,
surgeons par excellence from India. They lived in 100 AD and 500 respectively. So
yes, madam.
they also emphasized the importance of emotions in the cause of mental illness. So they also advocated that peace and happiness were outcome of positive mental health. And they had also, again, similar to Hippocrates, they had also, this is all during the same time. Hippocrates there in the Greece and Rome, here in India, so Charaka, Shushruta. So they had put forth the theory of humoral disequilibrium. So similar to that only. So we have, if you have heard, like, in Ayurveda, we believe in fit, so we have this imbalance,
Vata,
like
Pitta, Kapha,
Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So
Kapha.
similar to that, if there is an imbalance in this, a person, and this imbalance, they felt that this disequilibrium or imbalance is brought about by improper lifestyle, and because of which it leads to illnesses. So if a person, is leading a very healthy, and proper lifestyle, there will be a balance. Okay. So then after this, like lot of like, in Rome, in Greece, in India, even in Middle East, a lot of like, scientific developments were going on. After ancient period, then this Greek and Roman period in India, all over the world, lot of scientific developments were going on. Hippocrates, Plato, Aristotle, all these people like, they contributed a lot to the scientific development. Then what happened? After this period came the Middle Ages. And it is Middle Ages is considered to be the darkest period in the history, especially in Europe. Okay. So here again that thought of ancient, like suddenly religious thinking came into the front, and scientific inquiry, scientific innovation, scientific thought took a backseat. So here it is considered to be like Middle Ages is considered to be the dark period, uh, you know, in the history, for development of any scientific field. This was it again, like those thoughts like about like possession, uh, all these superstitious thought again took a front seat. So here, like in Europe, in Middle Ages, mental disorders were quite prevalent, and mass madness was observed here, like because see, this was a time where these are the times where widespread fear and distress was observed. People were under feudal system, and church was taking a very active role, and scientific inquiry was seen as going against God. And this was a period where you can like lot of plague was lot of illnesses, diseases, plague was going on, famine, diseases, oppression was observed during this period. So it was quite a dark period in terms of that, all scientific approaches were shut down. Okay. So they again during this period, uh, scientific thought was not used. This it saw a return of the belief that mental illnesses is because of supernatural causes, and such as possession by ghost, or you have been cursed, or God is not happy with you. Okay, so treatment again. Treatment was majorly, especially people suffering from mental illness or abnormal behavior. Treatment was left largely to the clergy, and occurred primarily in monasteries. Okay, so generally they will perform exorcisms, prayer, ointments, holy water. So treatment again, that whatever scientific inquiry, whatever scientific innovations had taken place during Greek, Roman, that Indian period. But curiously, during this time, this dark period or Middle Ages was observed mostly in Europe. Okay, so because during this Middle Ages in Middle East, first mental hospital was established in Baghdad. Okay, so and they had a very famous physician called Avicenna. So he had classified and defined diseases. So a lot of he was the first one who had said that tuberculosis is contagious. Okay, which was argued by the Europeans, but turns out that he was right. Okay,
Can
so
you repeat his name?
it's something extra which I'm teaching you. You don't need to. I'm just telling you. See, Middle Ages, the dark period, was majorly observed in Europe, European countries. Okay, so when you come towards East, Middle East, then East, you will see that scientific inquiry, scientific innovations were still going on. Okay, so Avicenna, his name is Avicenna. I'm sorry, Avicenna, Avicenna. He was born in Arabia. He was the
Okay.
first mental hospital was established in 792 AD. Okay, so in India, what happened during Middle Ages? There was a spread of Buddhism and Jainism and Hindu medicine. So we were still advocating human treatment for mentally ill people. Okay, so that they need good environment, they need proper, they need to be taken care of, exercise, So institutional care of mentally ill in India dates back to very old times, and it is when they were this archaeology, this edicts of Ashoka. So this is supported by they have found these edicts of Ashoka, and in those inscriptions, this information was written that you can actually can this is seen as an evidence that even during Middle Ages, the humane treatment was still observed in India. Okay, so we like the first mental hospital exclusively for mentally ill patients was established in Dhar near Mandu in Madhya Pradesh in 15th century, and this was the first asylum in the country. They provided Ayurvedic and Unani systems of medicine for treatment. Okay, so this was what was going on during Middle Ages. Okay, so here what happened in they lot of, as I said, mental disorders were on the high. Okay, so in Europe, so King Henry VIII, he commissioned a what you can say, he commissioned a hospital in London called Monastery of Saint Mary of Bethlehem, which in turn place to put people suffering from mental illnesses. He established this place, but what happened was that the conditions in which these patients, so this monastery of Saint Mary of Bethlehem, this name slowly became Bedlam. Bedlam is a very is the name of people started to associate it with. So intention was this hospital established for mentally ill people, but their conditions, the conditions in which they were kept were very deplorable, worse than the animals they were kept in that hospital. Okay, and they would be kept in cages, and people belonging to aristocratic class and would come and visit. Patients were put on display in these cages, and like how we would visit zoo and look at the cages where animals are kept now, so this aristocratic class, rich class of London would come and visit. These patients were put on display. Okay, and harmless patients, like violent patients, would be put on cages, and they would be treated very cruelly. Uh, their treatment was, excuse me, very cruel. And harmless patients, what they would do in this hospital was they were made to beg on the streets, and so their conditions like very so the kings or countries re-established these asylums or hospitals for mentally ill patients, but they were just, you can say, like picking them up from the streets and just so that the society doesn't get bothered with them, and they were just thrown into these places, and they were treated very badly. Okay, so then what happened? This was what was going on during that period. Then came Renaissance period. After Middle Ages, Renaissance. Here again, Renaissance definition of Renaissance is new birth. So again, like slowly resurgence of scientific inquiry started to happen in Europe. Okay, so John Weir, he is considered to be father of modern medicine. So he was a physician to specialize in mental disorders. So he was made fun of, scorned by his peers, but and banned by the church also till 20th century. And he contributed a lot for the Renaissance. And when it comes to abnormal psychology, we call it as an age of enlightenment. So humanitarian reform movement started during during this period, that is 18th century. Okay, so there are very important people who made a lot of contribution during this period. Okay, and so this is like 18th century is seen as a Renaissance period or age of new reform, new birth, and there are certain people who were very critical to especially when it comes to mental humanitarian uh, treatment towards mentally ill people. Pinel in he was a doctor in Paris. Okay, in a mental hospital, And when he saw, like, the way the patients were kept in chains, treated so inhumanly, so he could not like see that. He removed chains from the patients and started to, treat them kindly as an experiment, and found that it was successful. Okay. And then William Tuke in England, he established York Retreat, like a retreat outside of the London, and where, like, trained physicians and nurses were kept, uh, and to help in treating mental patients with humanity and kindness. And these patients were allowed to, like, take part in, agriculture, or are allowed to go for exercises, walks, and they were treated very kindly, and they could see the difference, and which slowly started to change public opinion towards mentally ill people also. Dorothy Dix, she in America, during the period of 1802 to 1887, she again, like, she went around the world uh, to create awareness regarding how inhumanly these mental ill patients were treated in mental hospitals. And she went around creating awareness, and established uh, 32 mental hospitals around the world. Okay, so these were important people uh, uh, during this Renaissance period. Their treatment philosophies was, like, moral management. That is, they attempt to help satisfy a person's social, occupational, and individual needs. An emphasis are placed on rehabilitating a person's moral and spiritual self rather than curing the mental illness. Mental hygiene movement was also observed during this period, that, patients should be kept, their physical needs should be met, they should be kept in a comfortable, clean environment. They should be kept in a hygienic, the hygiene is very, very important. Okay. Then came 20th century. Now let me just see if I'm missing something. Okay, 19th century is when, like, Freud. Freud was one of the foremost figures in when it comes to 19th century. So he is the one considered to be the father of psychology, and he is the one who's developed, his you can say, a perspective or a model of, abnormal psychology is psychoanalysis. Okay, so he is considered to be father of psychology. He developed personality theories, and treatment methods which are still continue to have an impact on abnormal psychology. uh, okay. And Stanley Hall, he became the first American to graduate with a doctorate in psychology, and he went on to create American Psychological Association. Franz Gall he created a content piece about phrenology, which is the belief that the shape of a person's skull reveals personality traits. So he had done an experiment. You don't have to write about Franz Gall, but he is like, he said the way a person's the shape of a skull can reveal a person's personality. Okay, so then comes your 20th century. So 20th century was where, like, the World War had ended, and lot of, you can say, people started to see again what happened. They had established mental hospitals and all that, but public opinion was still very negative towards these mental hospitals. People see mental hospitals as a place which is very eerie, strange, frightening. Okay. Mental hospitals as asylums were seen during 20th century as a very frightening place, and lot of lot of, you can say, substantial growth in number of mental hospitals was seen during 20th century. Lengthy stays. Lengthy stays is like once a patient is put admitted into a mental hospital, he would stay in that mental hospital for years and years and years, maybe whole life. Family members would come, get a person admitted, and they would never look back. Okay, and there was little to no effective treatment uh, was found during 20th century. Then slowly during 1946, 1963, there was changing views regarding mental health services. Okay, DSM-1 was published. DSM is Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Was published by American Psychiatric Association. Okay, and a famous book was written by Mary Jane Watt called Snake Pit. They made a movie also, black and white movie during that time. So a
Can you
famous
please
book,
repeat, ma'am?
Snake Pit, the
Snake
Snake
pit.
Pit. Yeah.
And
So
the author
this book
is
like
Mary.
became this book became like very it had a great impact. Like this book was basically a story regarding a woman who suffers from depression, and when she's put in a mental hospital, what horrors and hell she goes through. Okay, so this book had a great impact on people, common people, and this led to a call to provide more human treatments for mentally ill patients. Okay, and Goffman, another author, he published Asylums. In that book, he gave a detailed account of neglect and maltreatment of people, mentally ill patients. So this led
That
to a
author
lot of
name,
public awareness.
that author name you were telling, Mary?
Mary Jane Watt. You don't need to. I'm just like a story. I'm telling
I
you
just
this.
wanted, I just
Okay.
wanted to go through the
Mary
once if
Jane
it is
Watt,
possible.
Snake Pit. Mary Jane Watt, Snake Pit. Then which led to all these this awareness, these publications, and led to 1963 in US. They came up with Community Health Services Act. Okay, so then during 1970s, because all this awareness was there, like people are being ill-treated, mistreated during, their stays or while they are there in mental health hospitals. So during 1970s, when this Community Health Services Act came, so they started to once a person starts to show any improvement, they would bring the person back into the community. Okay, so they started to, and also so much of negative, uh, you know, uh, idea or basically negative opinion regarding mental hospitals led to disinstitutionalization of, matlab, they had started to close down these mental hospitals, and the idea was to bring these people who are suffering from mental illnesses and provide them with community mental health care. So in US, it was considered to be a radical shift in social policy and how the mental health care was provided. So inpatients were replaced inpatients were given community-based care, day treatment, outreach programs. They were provided with skills training, and this type of treatment was considered to be more human and cost effective. Cost effective in terms of the burden of maintaining mental hospitals is on the government. So it is much more cost effective if you once and also see one thing is why this happened. Why did this start to this close down, disinstitutionalize the mental hospitals, and community care was given so much of importance because uh, medicines, miracle drugs, suddenly discovery of medical drugs, the scientists could come up with miracle drugs such as tricyclics, lithiums, antipsychotics were discovered. Okay, so which led to what happened? These antipsychotics, these miracle drugs, if you call them as, what they did, they reduce the symptoms, the severe, the psychotic symptoms were reduced by the use of these antipsychotics or anti-anxiety or antidepressant medicines. Okay, so what happened the moment this, by the use of these medicines, symptoms would get reduced, and once the person comes to a stable state, the person was removed from the hospital and put into the community where community-based mental health care was provided. So, and uh, you know, uh, again, like, see what happened. Very good idea. because by the use of these miracle drugs, these people in the mental hospitals are being once the symptoms they reduce, they are being removed, released from the hospitals.
Yeah, get back to the
So,
normal society.
so getting back to the normal society. So fewer patients. So previously, what used to happen? Once a person gets into a mental hospital, he would stay almost his whole life. Family would not even look back. Okay, lengthy stays. Now fewer patients were spending time in inpatient hospitals. So patients were spending less time in inpatient hospitals, and more patients were getting rehospitalized. So the people, we are talking about community health care, all these things we are talking about. So but people are being removed by giving medicines, they are being released from these hospitals. But where are they now? Any idea? Where are these patients? Did it work? This closing down of mental hospital, deinstitutionalization of these mental hospitals, did it really work? I'm, I'm asking you, answer me this question. Did it really work? Where are these people now? Do you find them
Obviously,
in our community?
they are like they are merged in society like as like common people.
Where are they merged? So people
Not
released from Erragada, from very low socioeconomic background, okay, being released. Say person coming from very high socioeconomic background, they will get the most. They won't even be found in these government hospitals. Is correct or wrong?
yes, yes, no.
Okay,
So
they'll go to
maybe
private hospitals and psychiatrists and topmost psychiatrists and all that.
maybe in
So
orphanages.
where are they? They are homeless. They are found on the roads. They'll be found in nursing homes, group homes, or you will find them in jail. So
Okay,
did it really work? So
partially.
focus on medication. Too much of focus on medication because it is cost effective to the government, isn't it? Not just, I'm not talking about India. I'm talking about all over the world. When I'm talking about this thing is there. It applies to every corner of the world. Okay, and more stigma is attached to mental illness than physical illness. So you are releasing them from the hospital, but society is not going to be readily accepting of them. Okay, because more stigma is attached to mental illness than physical illness, and they have little economic social support or mental health programs. So usually not in my backyard sort of a mentality. So they are given little job training or placement, or even short term housing is not provided for them. Okay,
And
so
in that case, they are harmful, na, ma'am, harmful to the society. I mean, like we don't know how they'll react.
so
Whether
not so
they,
proper planning was not had not taken place, isn't it? People start,
okay.
okay. So if you really look at it, so decentralization, it paid more attention to negative rights than positive rights of a
Madam,
patient.
some of them
Hmm.
are rehabilitation centers.
Huh?
Rehabilitation centers.
Yes,
Some of them. Some of
yes.
them are
So
in
that is what I'm
rehabilitation.
going to come. Yes, I'm going to come to that. 20th century we are talking about. 21st century we will talk now. So, but still, see, the government has come up with community mental health centers. All the centers are there. But if you really look, if you are curious, go have a look. How much is that really working is a question for me. Anyways, so this closing down, uh, they see they paid more attention to negative rights than positive. See, they believe that patients have rights. Okay. And we also believe that patients have rights, isn't it? Have all the rights. So, but more attention was given to negative than the positive rights. What are negative rights? They are autonomy. They have to be independent. They have freedom of choice. They can decide for themselves. All that was negative rights. Positive rights is educating